Variances call one.
Okay, this is just for later.
Do we have everybody here yet?
She may, I don't see her. I was going to say she may be here.
Excuse
Yep,
Mr.
I wrote 'em
Gazan
in.
and then Joe, yeah.
I'd like to call the Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting on Tuesday, August 10th at 7 PM to order, please. Can we have the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have roll call, please?
Board Member Gazund. Board Member Krug.
Here.
Board Member McDonald.
Here?
Alternate Riley.
Here.
Board Member Euler.
Here.
Board Member Ward.
Here.
Board Member Wilner.
Here.
Vice Chair McAlpine.
Here. With that, we can confirm that we do have a quota present, so we can move on. Next on our agenda is the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. You should all have a copy of that, and we will take any comments or corrections, revisions to the agenda. If there are none, then we will take a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as prepared by staff.
I'll second.
Do we have a second on that as well?
Krug.
Yes.
McDonald.
Approved.
Riley.
Yes.
Euler.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Wilner.
Yes.
McAlpine.
Yes. Next up is the approval of the minutes from our meeting on July 12th, 2021. If everyone has had a chance to review those, the only addition we do need to make is that Mr. Krug was absent from that meeting, but we did have advance notice, so we just need to add that into the minutes, if we could do that as well.
Madam Chair, do you need a motion approving Mr. Krug's absence?
Madam Chair, I have a point I'd like to make too.
Okay.
I don't have them right in front of me, but I did review them, and I would like to propose an amendment with respect to the comment that Mr. Evans specified that he was withdrawing and resigning in protest over the decision with respect to I think it's the Gianmarco matter from March. I think as is, it just sounds like he's fondly waving farewell, which he wouldn't want. Same with respect to Mr. Allen, also resigned in protest and said they were doing so because of City Council's decision not to defend the board in court with respect to that matter. So I don't have exact wording, but I think that the minutes should reflect something to that effect.
Do you want us to give you exact wording, or can you?
I can paraphrase. The resignations were doing so in light of City Council's decision not to defend the decision by the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Support.
All right, we need a second, please.
Support.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Support.
All right, so we have a motion by Ms. Euler and a support by Ms. Ward.
McDonald.
Support.
Say yes. Riley.
Support.
Euler.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Wilner.
Yes.
Krug.
Yes.
McAlpine.
Yes.
And then we'll need a motion to excuse Mr. Gazund.
Yep. Mr. Gazan did provide advance notice that he would not be at the meeting today, so we just need to officially excuse him from this evening.
Second.
We need a first.
I guess I'll be the first. Can I
You can't be the
okay.
first.
I'll move that we excuse Mr. Gazund from tonight's meeting.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Euler.
Second.
Riley.
Yes.
Euler.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Wilner.
Yes.
Krug.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
McAlpine.
Yes. Okay, moving on to old business. Do you want to present our first case, please?
Yes, this item comes back to you from the meeting last month. It was postponed. This is case PBA-06-213497 Tyler. It's a request for three-dimensional variances. One, to construct an addition to the non-conforming structure that does not meet the side yard setback. Two, proposed addition does not meet the minimum 15-foot separation between dwellings. And three, proposed addition and new garage exceed the maximum lot coverage. This property is located on the west side of Tyler, north of 12 Mile. You will see from just the request highlighted in red, the proposed variance for the lot coverage. The applicant made some modifications and changes to the plans, so therefore they are reducing the request from the 41% of lot coverage to 37.5. They shrunk the garage in order to better meet that requirement. So the background is all here, including the scope of project that hasn't changed. I did provide a summary from the July 12th meeting and what was discussed. There was concern about the addition and the garage size. With the existing lot coverage of 27.4%, and I apologize that wasn't provided to you last month, the maximum 35% lot coverage. So with the changes that they've made, they still require a variance for the lot coverage, but it has lessened to 37.5%. The other variances requests for the minimum side yard setback and the separation distance between dwellings has not changed. The only modification that was made was they shrunk the size of the garage in order to lessen the variance for the garage size and the lot coverage. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Do we have any questions? If not, if the petitioner is here, if they could come forward, please, and state their name and address for the record.
Scott Marion, 3497 Tyler, Berkley, Michigan, 48072. Here,
Back.
back again. In hopes that we've satisfied all the requirements. I know we did speak about the two other variances, not the total, but I have all faith in constructing and making sure that there's a firewall on it'd be the south wall, included in the addition. That way, there should be no problem with fire or anything messing up that code.
If you could just, given we have some new members sitting tonight, if you could just give us a quick overview of what your request was so that they can have an understanding.
Okay, so my request is to build a 16 by 26 addition, both floors, off the back of my home to expand the home so that I can put my 4 children that I've adopted in the upstairs and also build out an actual kitchen where I can cook in. Hate to make light of it, but right now we're cooking in a 6 by 8 area, and I don't know if you guys, there's no counter space. So, and I'm also turning this home from a 2-family home back to a single-family home, and trying to maintain staying here in Berkeley and raising my children. So,
Does anyone have any questions for the petitioner?
How painful, what would be the additional to get it from 37.5 to 35? We have to ask.
I did some calculations, and in order for not shrinking the garage anymore, but shrinking the addition, they would have to reduce it by over 100 square feet. So the current proposed addition is 418 square feet. They would have to reduce it to 310 square feet.
What about the garage? Is it possible to make a 1-car garage and get it to 35?
I mean, that would be possible, but that was
Is it
deemed that
probable?
they would
No.
not. That would not suit their needs for their family.
so and the garage is mainly storage. With 4 children, you can't imagine. My basement looks like a hoarder.
I can imagine.
But in the same respect, there's many newer homes that have been built in the area that are quite a bit more than 40% of their lots. I don't want to compare. I want this based on what I'm trying to do is make sure that we keep the integrity of the house for future, and basically just give my children a better home. So, in the garage, I need every bit of space that I can. I'm trying to comply with everything I can, and we lost 2 foot by 20 foot off the front of the garage in order to bring it down. So
this time there's 3 violations or 3 variances that we're looking for?
Variances.
Variances that we're
Yeah.
looking for. And one is a side distance.
Took the distance on the house, we took the house straight back as it's built
So the
now.
original house line is just continued.
Yes, it's not
Correct.
conforming as it is.
Right, so it was non-conforming to begin with, the
Correct.
original.
So we just carried, like I said, we just carried the house straight back from where it was and kept sides the same, so.
And excuse me for my not knowing, what is the
Oh, no.
the city rule for side setback from house
It's
to house?
minimum 5 feet, with a total of 15,
15?
and then there's a requirement of 15 feet between dwellings.
Okay. And is currently, the original house line is how far from your neighbors?
We need 1 foot on the side, so I think we're 4 feet on one side, and then we're at like 13, 8 for the other side.
I'm sorry, I don't have that
Yeah.
paperwork with me,
Okay.
so I apologize that I'm not looking at it.
We are close with it, but, so instead of like pushing the house in for the addition, that's why we just followed the same sight line going down.
the actual addition also sits behind the next door neighbor's house, to the south. Whatever's existing now, their house sits more forward towards the street, where mine is already way behind, and the addition would be even further behind their house. So it's not, the fence line is the only thing that it would meet. And on the north side, there's only like 5 foot of the addition that would be in line with their house.
Okay.
So,
The back of their house.
yeah. And that side of the house, there'd only be a bedroom and a bathroom on that side of the house, both upper and lower. So there's nothing fire retardant or, we're not putting a kitchen on that side of the house.
So to meet the variance on the one side, we're 1 foot, and the other side to hit the 15 feet, I think we're 2 feet 4 inches.
Great.
Yeah.
Is what
Okay.
we're short.
So I do have a question, and maybe it's for the board. Has the board approved a variance previously for exceeding the 35% coverage? Or maybe,
No, that is what we came back for.
No.
previously?
Oh,
On some
35,
other,
Yep.
some other Jim.
I don't have the history of everything that's been done, but, it's important to look at each case individually. So even if one has been approved in a previous time, the circumstances may be different than this one, so.
Right, and we obviously would have looked at the 5 standards in that particular case, just like we have to look at the 5 standards in this particular case to determine if there's any kind of hardship.
Correct. That's why that's not part of the analysis that I provide.
The most recent one was denied. It involved a request for a pool, and that was a couple months ago. It was much more excessive than this, though.
And I'm assuming the neighbors have to, was there any objections to this plan previously?
We didn't receive any communication we received at the last month's meeting, but I haven't received any new communication from any of the neighbors. They were all notified per state statute by the public hearing notice that was published in the newspaper. All real property owners and occupants within 300 feet were notified by mail. And then per our city ordinance requirements, there was a public hearing notice sign posted at the subject property at least 7 days prior to the public hearing, which happened last month. So the neighbors and anyone in that general area, if they've driven by it, they were aware of this case.
There's multiple ways in which we reached out to them.
Multiple ways, yes.
And if you'd like me to add, there's been many people that stopped by and wished me luck because the house needs help.
I had one additional question. I think you mentioned that many properties on the street exceed 40%. Did I hear that?
There's a few.
Okay. Do you know how many? Any idea?
I did not calculate that, no.
Were these new builds or were they?
Newer builds, within the last 10 years.
Do you have
I would not agree with that. I mean, I have to look at each one individually, but our standards are 35% for an interior lot. If you're on a corner lot, it's up to 45%, just based on the configuration of the corner lots are bigger. But we look at all those standards very carefully when we issue building permits.
Because I was thinking that, you know, based on this property, what was it, 1920s or 30s, it was pretty old, and it was the duplex or whatever it was based on really old coding. So if there's other houses on the street that had setups
Like I
that
said,
exceed
with all
35 from a long
respect,
time ago, that might make sense to me. But
with all respect, I've seen them. I didn't do all the calculations. Everybody on my street has about the same exact amount of lot size. Maybe it just looks bigger. I didn't do the actual calculations.
A question for staff. When was this 35%? It wasn't always in the city
Adopted?
charter. When was it adopted? In 1963, was it? Or
Yeah, I've gone back and looked at those scheduled regulations, and that has been the standard since, about 1963, 1974, 1981. Those are all historical ordinances that we have, and it hasn't changed.
I'm going to ask you a hard question now, and I don't expect you to answer it. But how many houses are, and it's maybe impossible to find out, do you think might have been out of compliance once we went to that 35%, became non-conforming?
Oh, I would have absolutely no idea on that.
Okay.
but we do know not this one because
But
it was.
not this one. But would you say that as far as setbacks, those, a few of the houses, when this ordinance was adopted, became non-conforming?
Yeah, that does happen, and this one is a particular case of that. We've had a couple of these come forward. Part of our ordinance is we do allow extensions or enlargements, additions to be made on a non-conforming structure if they don't meet the setbacks or 15 feet, blah, blah. But it is specifically stated in our ordinance that any addition must conform with the current codes as they are currently adopted. So if they wanted to put on the addition specific to the side yard setback or the 15 feet separation, they could do that, but then it wouldn't be able to follow the existing building line as they have proposed. It would have to be moved in a little bit to meet that standard.
So that would, as far as the roof construction and stuff like that, you would have to build more valleys and stuff like that, more chances of ice damming and roof leakage.
Yep, that's the way the ordinance is written now. Mhm.
Okay.
Are there any other comments? Okay, if you can have a seat, we'll move on to the next portion. And we will open it up to the public to see if there's anyone to speak. I need to read all this, right?
Yes, okay. It's not a public hearing, we've already had that,
Okay.
but you can ask the public to speak if they would
Okay.
like. And if you recall, we do have not only in person, but we have the virtual option as well.
So if there's anyone attending the meeting in person, if you'd like to come up to the podium and state your name, your place of residence, prior to stating your comments, and we'll give you the time to speak. Seeing as there's no one, this is a new version of meeting. We are also offering the virtual option. So if there are any participants that would like to speak that are viewing this meeting from home or somewhere else, there is a raised hand function on the bottom and a more function. Our moderator will call your name aloud and unmute you so you can speak. For those that have called in, you will be placed in queue for public comment by selecting *9. The moderator will announce the last 4 digits of your phone number. For recognition, unmute you so that you can speak, and once again, you will have the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Additionally, we will read any public comments that were emailed to zoning@berkleymich.net, and those comments needed to be received before 5 p.m. today. Given the circumstances with virtual space, we may not be able to read through all the email comments, but know that we have stored them, acknowledge them for the public record. So if there are any, is there anyone attending virtually?
Madam Chair, you do not have anyone attending virtually at this time.
Perfect, thank you. And then did we have any emails to zoningberkeleymish.net before today's meeting?
I have not received any correspondence, no.
All right, so then we will go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting, and we will go ahead and discuss as a board the request from the petitioners. And it may be best if we divide, since there are 3 different variances, is that we divide them up in each individual one and go from there.
Madam Chair, I have provided sample motions for each of the 3 variances that are at your seats, just for ease of reference.
Perfect. And just recall that, once again, there are 5 criteria that need to be met. Do you want to go ahead and read those?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
1 second here. Apologies. Okay. 1, the need for the variance is due to unique circumstances or physical conditions of the property. Number 2, the need for the variance is not the result of actions of the property owner or previous property owners. Number 3, strict compliance with the ordinance will unreasonably prevent the property owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or will render conformity with those regulations unnecessarily burdensome. Number 4, the requested variance is the minimum variance necessary to do substantial justice to the applicant as well as other property owners. And number 5, the requested variance will not adversely impact the surrounding properties.
So once again, I'll just state for the record that in order for this to be approved, we need to have a consistent answer to each of those 5, and they need to be the same whether we vote yes or no. So if we can evaluate the request based upon those criteria, that is what our job entails.
I have a question for staff. I just, are we allowed to do this in terms of the construct? Previously, I remember when I was an alternate, I got excused a couple times because I was told that you can't begin the debate with one construct at the board and then do it with another.
In terms of the makeup of who the board members are?
Correct. Like that's just what happened to me, because there was a vote and debate the first time. I was told that I was an alternate and I couldn't sit. But
No, I don't know anything about that rule.
okay,
No, that, otherwise, in this case, we would
yeah,
run the
pretty
risk of
hard.
not having a
We
quorum.
never,
we wouldn't
we've
have a
never have a
quorum.
quorum.
Well, we
Run the risk of not
would,
having quorums.
but I mean, it would have to be.
Right,
Ryan would have to be
Ryan
here.
would have to be here.
But okay, just as long as it's legal.
All right, so are there any comments from any of the board members? Yes, Ms. Ward?
Madam Chair, even though the property owner made a good faith effort to reduce the property coverage from 37.5%, or from 41% to 37.5%, that only brings it down to 3.5% reduction. The concern that I have as a resident, as a property owner, is that you have individuals who purchase a piece of property with a house on it. They decide that they are going to expand the size of the property, and unfortunately, the property size is that of a postage stamp. And I really am concerned about maintaining the 35% guideline, which would require that the house in the secondary building would not take up any more land than 35%. And in this situation, we're 2.5% over. I I don't see where approval of this with the 5 criteria that we use for determining a variance is here. Yes, the property is just a continuation of the existing building. That is potentially a possibility. But as for the variance for, that would be on I believe, the north property line. I'm concerned. Number one, Berkley has poor sewers to begin with. And by putting huge structures on small property, where does the runoff go? You've got building, you've got asphalt or cement, and there's no place. And so where does the runoff go from storms? Goes into the sewers. We have bad sewers. So I think we need to adhere to that 35% that is in the ordinance rather than going outside of the ordinance. Just my personal opinion. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Are you saying that it's, the 35% is necessary for almost like a greenbelt application to prevent excessive storm runoff then?
Structures need to be no more than 35% of the property, of the land, what's the word I'm looking for, Erin?
Lot coverage.
Lot coverage. And that by making the structure bigger, what you're doing is you're not providing an opportunity for grass, for dirt, for stones, to allow the water to run into the ground. It runs off. It runs off of concrete, it runs off of asphalt, it runs off of shingles, it runs off of buildings, and it goes right into the sewer. So if we maintain the 35% of lot coverage and no more, I think we would do ourselves justice and hopefully take care of our sewers.
Are you aware this property has a huge slab on it too? But that be allowed because
Well, right now,
we're back.
it's a non-conforming use.
Right, I
as
understand
it
that.
exists. And if they chose to do nothing, the city could do nothing to them. It would have to remain the same. But once they have approached the board and they've approached the Community Development Department and asked for a variance, then the city looks at the entire property. Is that correct, Ms. Schluto?
Well, we look at the property for what they're proposing to do.
To do?
Yes. Within the construct of this variance.
Yeah.
You're looking at the variance requests, yes.
Thank you.
But the
So
lot
I
coverage
have a
does
question,
not
I guess.
include.
What if they, I mean, to keep the 35% lot coverage and maintain the addition on the house, if they reduce the garage to a one, I know not what they want to do, reduce it to a 1.5 car garage, you still have storage. It's not as big as you'd like, but the structure could, the addition could maintain the same size. And then you'd be within the 35%.
Madam Chair, that was one of the proposals that the board made last month. And the owner and the builder said that they would take that into consideration and come back with a revision. So that was something that was suggested.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Euler.
I think they did cut down the garage, right? That's what I
They
heard.
did,
did.
Yeah.
20
Yes, they did.
by 20 instead of 22 by 22.
But I guess I had a question. It's Mark, right?
Right.
Are you saying that the slab itself covers 40% or 30-some percent?
No, I'm saying I noticed when I went there, there was a huge slab there
Okay.
that he's allowed to have, and there's not gonna be any
But-
runoff
but-
there.
But we don't have any information that the slab covers over 35%. Or,
No, I'm just, her concern was, you know, the 35% for a greenbelt area, and here he has a
Okay.
huge slab sitting on the property.
I'm just concerned about, well, I'm concerned about consistency, and I'm concerned about the whole slippery slope thing, because we say yes to 37.5.
You're saying we set a
Well,
precedent.
so what if it's 39? What if it's 38.5?
Right.
We had it wasn't the lot coverage, but we had one a few months ago where there was an original survey and somebody cut a driveway, and then it turned out like he was like 3 feet off in being able to divide his lot.
Split, yeah, it was a very, very minimal amount for a lot split.
And we didn't let that one go through. So this one I find troublesome because I think that the owner is doing something good, and I think this property, you know, I just think of it in my head as the 1920s one that was divided into, you know, 2 living spaces, which Berkley wouldn't even want anymore, so they're making it better in a lot of respects, but those are my thoughts.
I think I have the same thoughts. I mean, I really feel that we need to hold that 35%. There is flexibility in the garage. And one problem, they're on a 40-foot lot. You know, if you're on a 50-foot lot, you have that flexibility. But on the 40-foot lot, and I'm afraid that, let's say someone comes up with us for wanting a variance like it again, and we turn it down, and they decide to take us to court, and they come back and say, hey, you know,
You
back
approved
in-
it for
back-
this one,
Back in
yes.
August of 2021, you approved it for this person, you know, why aren't you approving it for us?
Yes, and that's why it's very important that we address the 5 standards and whether or not they have been met. Yes. Ms. Ford?
And, Madam Chairman, I think it's important to take each case individually and not refer back to previous cases, because there is always different and extenuating circumstances for each case that comes before this board.
However, in this case, they could reduce the garage and still maintain a living space, I guess, so. And I just noticed in the last, I guess it was the last meeting minutes, there was a note that the applicant noted possibility of being able to meet the 35% lot coverage. So,
I think what happened is we gave them some guidelines and some suggestions on what we thought they would need to do, and this is their response. So I think at this point, we have to decide, based upon their good faith effort of making some revisions, do those work? And if they don't work, what do we need to do to be able to approve this, and what are they willing to revise at this point again? Because it's not uncommon for us to have that discussion at this meeting and provide some direction for them and approval with certain conditions. Any other comments?
Well, I think we should break it down in the
Yep.
3 variances that are being asked for.
I
And
concur
vote on those
with you,
3
Mr.
separately.
Krug.
Yep.
Yes, I concur with you.
So before we start that, I guess we could ask the petitioner if they'd be willing to adjust the garage as well, because that would help us make a determination. And it would potentially eliminate the need for one of those variances. If you want to come back, so I guess our question is, we've had a lot of discussion as it relates to how do we get you to the 35%? And it looks like the only opportunity we have to do that is to look at the size and the dimensions of the garage.
As long as I can keep the integrity of the house, I can make that garage whatever size that works for the plans, I guess. Not my intention. I'd like to be able to put a car in it at some point or 2, but if, you know, I guess we could probably do something off the side and make it a little bit smaller.
Looks like there's some calculations.
That's why I
going
have
on.
him here, our architect, Jim.
So, question, so the change of the house is out of the question. You're you're firm? with
It
what
would
you-
be, it would be absolutely, how would I say that?
It'd be very hard to even do an addition that would be.
Sir, can you come to the microphone?
Right.
Yeah, if we can have you come back and just.
Come up.
If you took the house down to the square footage you would need to hit the 35%, it'd be almost,
It would
not
not,
that say it the right way, it wouldn't
What's the
be
point?
worth even doing the
Yeah.
addition almost, because you would take away so much of it.
So the petitioner is basically saying that the only way to reduce is the garage
And
itself.
that's what I'm trying to look at
Right.
right now, and even as I'm doing it, you're gonna honestly give yourself like a 16 by 20 garage,
Correct. Well,
if that, because you really have to take quite a bit off for that garage to even make it work.
so at this point right now, the garage is 20-foot wide by 18-foot deep.
The existing one.
Correct, right? The
But you're
existing,
making it 20 by 20 in your,
We had 2 feet
Right.
in your
onto it.
plan.
We,
right. So we wanted 22 by 20, and we took 2 foot off, so we were gonna make it 20 by 20. Now what we're saying is we need, off of the width of the garage to shorten that by, what, 4 foot?
at least right now is what I'm.
4 foot to get it down to 35%? We need 100 square foot, was that what you were saying?
About 100 square feet, yeah.
About 100 square foot. So that'd be 4 by,
Actually, you'd be about 15 by 20, I think, for your garage. Yeah, 15 by 20 would give you 100 square feet off of the garage right now, so it'd be a 15.
Sorry,
15 foot wide by
can you
20.
come to the microphone?
Yeah,
I
if we can-
can't hear you.
If we could just, before you start though, can we have you state your name and address
Jim
for the record?
Chabrugan, 10775 South Saginaw Road, Grand Blanc. So I'm looking at it, to take 100 square feet off, you'd have to take 5 feet off the garage. So it would be a 15 by 20 garage, is what you would have to go down to make it work. Looking at the numbers, because that would take us down to, that would give us 100 square feet off of the lot.
It's a-
Yeah, Mr. Wheeler?
Either way, it's only gonna fit one car, right?
architectural,
20 by 20 would give, that's,
a 2-car.
It's 2 cars.
yeah, that's about a 1.5 really with that.
It's a 1.5.
Yeah, that's 1.5 of 20 by 20. So 15 by 20 would give you 1 car.
1 car.
Without any storage
Without
included
any
in it.
storage.
Yeah.
So would that be, are you open to that option?
Not especially. But I have to have the addition for my children more than I do have to have a garage. I don't know why I would have to do this anyway. One of the things is, by improving the lot, it's gonna improve the drainage of the lot as well. And right now, it drains pretty fast right to the street. But there's a lot of clutter that goes down the driveway, okay? Gravel and otherwise. You're putting me on the spot.
Madam Chair, if I may, to address that point, for the size of the addition he's doing plus the expanded garage, there would be a grading review that would be done by an engineering service to make sure that the water drains appropriately. It does not impact the neighbors, and
Yes.
it does not cause stormwater implications. So that is built in part of our building permit review process.
Besides the roof line of the addition would contour to that as well.
One thought would be building the garage taller. You'd have your 15
Well,
by 20 garage.
From what I understand, we're not allowed to do a loft.
We are-
15 feet is the maximum, and that's where they're at
Oh,
right
so
now.
they're reading that different now? I mean,
It's
maybe before it was 15 feet to the center of the gable
Yes,
line.
it is. Yes, and that's where they are right now,
Okay.
as they proposed it, yep.
So I know my garage, I have a second story on it, I'm at 15 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Right when Berkley changed that ordinance or read it that way.
You're grandfathered in then.
I did the second story on mine, and I got a lot of storage in the top of that, 'cause it ends up 22 feet tall, I think.
Yeah, for accessory structures, it's 15 feet, and then the lot coverage is based on both stories. If you recall from the previous months, yeah, that So then the lot coverage would be even more,
I see.
even higher, yes.
So that's.
So they're not doing a second story, anything up there.
Go ahead.
That's the 15 feet is the mean?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
it's the average between, the average height between the ridge and the gable.
Right.
Or the ridge and the eave, I apologize.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm looking at that right now,
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If the petitioner would be willing to go to a 20 by 15 sized garage, then there would be no need for number 3 variance.
Correct. So we'd be down to two
Two
variances.
variances, which, based upon the neighborhood, would not impact that particular, Tyler, would not be impacted by the request for the addition.
So I believe it is our choice that we, or our decision that we move forward with
15
addressing
by
each
20.
variance, variance 1, 2, and 3 separately. So, for discussion purposes, the first variance is to construct an addition on
16
a
by
non-conforming structure that does not meet
16, yeah.
the required yard setback. So that is, motion number 1 that we have to, determine whether or not we want to provide a variance for the petitioner.
I'll just say it was off on this one.
Right,
If there is no more discussion, we can move to that portion.
yeah.
Madam Chair, I would move that we adopt the request for a variance to construct a rear addition that does not meet the required side yard setback located at 3497 Tyler, parcel number 25-07-451-034, zone single-family residential, to be approved due to the following findings of fact, that the 5 standards of review have been met. 1, the need for the variance is due to unique circumstance or physical condition of the property. The need for the variance is not the result of actions of the property owner or previous property owners. 3, strict compliance with the ordinance will unreasonably prevent the property owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or will render conformity with these regulations unnecessarily burdensome. 4, the requested variance is the minimum variance necessary to do substantial justice to the applicant as well as other property owners. And 5, the requested variance will not adversely impact the surrounding properties or the community.
So we have a motion from Ms. Ward to approve the side yard setback, and is there a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. We can take a roll call, please.
Bueller,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Wilner,
Yes.
Krug,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
McAlpine.
Yes. So your first request for a variance has been approved. The second request for a variance is to construct an addition on a non-conforming structure that encroaches into the required minimum 15 feet separation distance. So if we can go ahead and discuss that or have a motion, please?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, I'd also just like to know for the record that, at least my vote, and I think there was discussion in the last, we didn't really discuss it at all this time, but I think there was discussion on both of these.
Last month.
Correct.
Yeah.
And my vote in the last one was based in part on that, and my only comment is I think we should probably approve the second one too, based on the points discussed last time.
All right, so then if there are no other comments or any feedback from the board, we will go ahead and take a motion on the request for the second variance.
I think Miles, Mr.
Oh, I'm
Euler
sorry, you've got
made
a
it.
motion. Yep.
Oh, did I? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll
With
I'll
that,
support
and
it.
Do you want me to, should I read it?
If you can just read that top part, the motion for approval, please.
I'm on the wrong page.
18 by 20, 15.
Yeah, but I got a different idea.
We're on the bottom now, right? Yeah.
There's all three, there's three of them. There's three separate pages for three separate variances.
Two.
Do you want me to go ahead and read it?
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Lot coverage, 15 feet.
In the matter of PBA 06-21, the request for variance to construct an addition that encroaches into the required minimum 15 feet separation distance located at 3497 Tyler, parcel number 25-07-451-034, zone single-family residential. Move to approved. I move to approve it due to the following findings of fact that the 5 standards of review have been met. And I think we can reference the 5 standards as previously read.
Support.
All right, we'll take a roll call vote on that, please.
Ward,
Yes.
Wilner,
Yes.
Krug,
Yes.
McDonald,
Approved.
Riley,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
McAlpine.
Yes. So your first two motions have been approved, and then we just need to determine whether or not you are willing to reduce the size of the garage to a 15 by 20 foot garage, which then would require the need for the third variance as unnecessary.
I think we might be able to go to 16 by 20 doing all these calcs, so.
With with the numbers man here, he did figure out that 16 by 20 would work. I'm fine with that.
Is it 16 wide?
16 wide, yes.
Okay.
That,
Yeah, because you need the 20 foot deep if you ever want to put a vehicle in the garage, because
Right.
it's 18 now and you can't put a vehicle in there and close the door.
right.
We just let them withdraw it rather than vote on it, Tom?
Yes, if
Yes,
he's
okay,
willing to,
so,
We would not vote on it.
right, so we will,
so he just needs to state that he's withdrawing that variance request.
so we're just gonna ask that
Yes.
you
Yep.
request, that you
Withdraw.
You're gonna withdraw request number 3 for a dwelling and garage improvement that would exceed the maximum lot coverage, and that you will just abide by the ordinance of keeping it at 35%.
Yes, I will.
Okay,
Question, Madam Chairman. The 16 by 20, does that bring it down to 35% coverage?
Yes.
It does.
Yep, I just did the numbers.
We'll,
be down
we'll
in-
double check everything, but
Okay.
yes.
yeah, I was gonna say, if we can just,
We'll double check it when the
Stipulate.
yeah,
permits are
stipulate that you work
reviewed.
with staff in order to meet that, and whatever those numbers come out to, we will entrust that the plans are revised accordingly.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to the new business portion of our meeting for this evening. Number 2 on our agenda is the elections. The matter of electing a chair and vice chair to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Madam Chair? Since we have a couple of new members, and we also have one member who is absent this evening, it would be my recommendation that we postpone the election of chair and vice chair until we have all members here and are able to vote.
So it's my understanding, we just want to move it to the next meeting where
Meeting.
we will have
Yes.
the original or the current designated members
Members.
present.
Yes.
Do we need a motion to move that? Okay, so we'll take a motion, please. Support?
I'll support.
Can I comment on? I mean,
Yes.
My only thought on that is we've had, I don't know, it's not too many times we've had everybody here 2 times in a row. So what do we do if Sue doesn't show up next time?
Sue promises she will be here.
I think given the fact that Mr. Gazan's not here, if we can, and try to do it, and then my understanding is that we've actually had, missed meetings because we have nothing on the agenda, and that have forced our elections to go a little bit past the time that we're supposed to do that, so.
Yeah, by your rules of procedure, they're supposed to be done at the January or at the February meeting at the latest, but given change in circumstances, I brought this to the board again this year.
So there's no rush. We don't need to rush.
Well, I mean, we
What
have
is if Sue
a,
doesn't
we
show
have a, yeah. If Sue doesn't show up, then it would be the next senior ranking member.
Yes.
to chair.
Well, I don't plan on going anywhere, so. That's okay, then we will go ahead and take a motion to table the elections. Or we have a motion, I'm sorry, support?
Support.
Okay, and then we'll take a roll call vote.
Wilner,
Yes.
Krug,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
McAlpine.
Yes. Next up is other business on our agenda. Is there any other business we need to discuss?
No, there's not.
Okay, if not, next up would be the staff and the board member report.
Just wanted to bring everyone's attention, the master plan has been drafted. It is out for the required 63-day public comment period. So it's available on our website, and it will be there till September 23rd. So a lot of time, work, effort, blood, sweat, and tears went into it. So I highly recommend everyone take a look at it, provide any comments that you do have. We also have comment boxes that are available at City Hall facilities, or city facilities, so they're at City Hall, Public Safety, Public Works, the libraries, Parks and Rec, and the Senior Center. Additionally, we will be having a booth at the Cruise Fest in order to garner more people to look at it, to talk about it, to provide any comments. So if you want to direct anybody to that, or if anyone has brought any questions or comments to you, direct them to not only to me, but we have a email blast for masterplan@berkleymish.net. All comments can go there. All the comments will be tallied and collected after the 63-day period has concluded, and they will be provided for the Planning Commission to review and discuss. Okay.
Thank you, that was a huge endeavor. Are there any other comments about Mr. Lowe's report? If not, we will move on to the liaison report. Mr. Hennanen, do you have anything to add tonight?
I have nothing tonight.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. All right, so next up, we will open up our meeting to the public. What we'll do is we will go ahead and ask anyone present who would like to speak to come up to the microphone, and then we will go to those people that may be attending virtually, and then move forward to reading any email comments that we may have had. So first, if anyone is in person, if they would like to come to the podium, and please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Janice Zalay, 3675 Berkley, Royal Burke Avenue, Berkley, Michigan. I'm here today as a resident of Berkley, and my property has been a certified National Wildlife Backyard Habitat since 2004. And it's been my understanding that in the last 9 months, the Berkley Building Department approved a lot split and new building construction plans for properties located at 3679 Royal, which is currently a vacant lot and undeveloped site, and 3689 Royal, which is an improved site. These properties are adjacent to my property to the north, and the property of 3679 is immediately adjacent to my property. The property of 3689 Royal abuts the property of 3679 to the north. I'm here to introduce myself and present to the Zoning Board of Appeals my formal protest that I have also filed with the City Council. I am filing a formal protest to the lot split and the proposed new building construction plans of 3679 and 3689 Royal Avenue, which were unilaterally approved by the city's building inspector, because the lot split and the new building constructions are clearly not in conformity with Berkeley's schedule of regulations and notes to the regulations of zoning district R1D, and should have been submitted to the zoning board for a variance request, input from the affected neighbors, and after that input, a decision and approval should have been made of approval or disapproval should have been made by the zoning board. All the requirements of the Michigan Land Division Act, which is MCLA, 560.108 must be complied with for this approved lot split to be valid. I understand that there is a formal procedure, and I'm not here to argue my protest. I'm merely here to introduce myself and respectfully request that the zoning board review and consider my protest, and I'm also available for any further questions. Thank you.
This is materials that we just received prior to sitting down. I don't know that any of us have had truly the opportunity to review them. And we understand that you do have some concerns. Would it be best, how should we proceed, I guess, is what I'm asking. This is something new for us.
Right, and this was presented, I received this late this afternoon. So I have briefly reviewed it. This is to be something that I will be discussing with the staff tomorrow and in the days to come to find out where we stand with everything and look at all the plans and look at everything. I can't make a comment on the process. Well, I can make a comment on the process, but I can't make a comment on what was approved and whether or not it was in compliance or not, because I have not looked at them in depth at this point. But that would be something that city staff will be undertaking in the coming days.
Okay, and then,
If there is, I'm sorry,
no, go ahead.
if there is any violations to be found, we will address that with the current developer, the homeowner, because they are the ones who would then spur the application to the zoning board. The zoning board cannot take up a variance request without the property owner's permission. So anything that would come before you would be applicant-driven. So we will be working with them to find out
Okay.
where the status of everything is. If things are in compliance, then we'll be working with the Ms. Slay and go over everything in detail. But first, need to do a comprehensive look at all of the materials that have been submitted and everything that she has presented to us this afternoon.
Okay, so just to summarize, we will use your department to review everything that's been done. If there are any issues or irregularities or things that should have been brought forward to us, those would be identified, discussed, and then it would be on the property owners that are trying to develop the property to come in front of us for a variance,
Yes, if that is the case, yes.
if it's necessary.
I have a question, Chair. How far along is the construction here? Do we know?
Sorry.
A question for staff. How far along is the construction on the site yet?
As far as I know, nothing has been done. This
Nothing
came
has
to
been-
me at about 6 o'clock, 6:30 this evening, so I
Okay.
haven't had time to do an in-depth analysis on anything in this yet.
All right.
So really, it's just for informational purposes at this point, and to let us know that there is some question about the process and the procedures that have taken place. And you will do your due diligence to determine if there were any missteps along the way. And if there
Correct.
are, then we would be back, they would be back in front of us. You would then have the opportunity to speak on this, and then we can make a determination on whether or not they should proceed or can proceed with the variances that they would need.
Correct.
So I think this is just a receipt and file, and we will wait to hear from you. If you could, either way, just report back to us at our next meeting as to what happened.
Yes,
I think
correct.
that would be helpful.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would like to make a statement, if I may. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. As you may remember from last month's meeting, I was very surprised about the decisions made by Chairman Evans and Board Member Allen to resign their appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I had hoped that both members would reconsider their decision. In fact, I even asked them the night of the meeting if they would. Neither chose to do that. It is sad to lose two talented board members. I understand Chairman Evans and Board Member Allen's determination was based upon a decision by the council to overturn one of the ZBA's rulings. However, their departure does change the makeup of the City of Berkeley's Zoning Board of Appeals. And while their actions do send a message, I offer this old adage: One cannot effectuate change from the outside. Only leadership from within can bring about change. I am sorry that they have chosen to leave the board. They were an asset, and they will be missed. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak during this portion of public comment that is present? Okay, if not, then we will turn to the moderator to see if we have any people attending virtually via the webcast, and if there are, please utilize the raise hand function by selecting Manage Participants on the bottom of your dashboard and select More in the bottom right-hand corner. Our moderator will call your name aloud and unmute you so that you can speak. For those that have called in, you can be placed in the queue for public comment by selecting *9. Our moderator will announce the last 4 digits of your phone number for recognition and unmute you so you can speak. You will have 3 minutes to speak, and once your 3 minutes are up, you will be muted by the moderator. Additionally, after that portion of the audience participation has been closed, we will read any comments that were emailed to zoning@berkleymich.net before 5 p.m. today. Given the circumstances with virtual space, we may not be able to read through all the email comments, but know we have stored them for acknowledgement in the public record. At this time, we will review the public comments from those in person, which we've already done, and next will be any email correspondence that we've had. Do we have any email correspondence that we've received?
No.
Okay, if not, then I will ask the moderator if there are any people attending virtually that would like to speak.
Madam Chair, there are no virtual attendees at this time.
Thank you. So we do not have anyone who has attended virtually or sent any email comments, so we will close that portion of the public hearing, and if we can proceed, we will adjourn the meeting for this evening. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Sue. Did you retire yet?
No, not yet. There is a shortage of inspectors.